I'll say welcome, lovely people, to one of the last sessions of the conference, and also welcome to the people online. We are very happy to have you. Make sure to access our collaborative notes and check in, means sign in your name so we know that you have been here. That would be really great. Also, if you have questions, you can use the chat, you can use also the notes to note them there, and we will have time for them as well. So yes, we picked up on the Festival of Data theme and called it the Fiesta of our interest group, community celebration of education and training material and metadata richness. And I want to show you the agenda for today, what we're going to do. We parted our 1.5 session into 3 parts. So we start with the welcome and introduction, giving you an overview of what is currently going on. Then we get to the party phase, so to say, showing and describing the training materials with showcases, doing a little bit of an interactive thing, using the metadata scheme that will also be introduced, discussing a little bit about that, and then have a look at the next steps that we're going to do. So to introduce the interest group again, what we want is to, first of all, exchange information on developments, initiatives, and the promotion of research data management training and education. We want to foster quality standards for education and training programs that are aimed at researchers. And we want also to support professionals, so data stewards and anyone else who might feel like being in a similar position. And of course, we also want to encourage the recognition of the required skills. We also, here is a time and point where we introduce our co-chairs. We want to give a thank you shout out to the past ones, which are Yuri and Christopher. And presently we have Laura, who is also in the room, Kati, who is online, Amy, who's giving another session. My name is Jan. I'm a biologist and I just joined the co-chair team after the last plenary, and as well as Magda.
Hi, I'm Magda. I'm from Gdańsk University of Technology. I'm a leader of the Open Science Competency Center, and I'm so excited that I became a co-chair, and I would like to encourage you because we have an open call for the new co-chairs. And what's the most important, we are looking for co-chairs outside the Europe. So who's outside of the Europe?
Oh,
okay.
2 hands, yay, no, 3, nice. Great. Yeah, I'm from Germany, working at the Leibniz Institute as a data steward. You can also see what we do in the interest group on our wiki site, and we have some recent outcomes of our work, especially the recommendations for the minimal metadata that will be introduced later, as mentioned. So today's goals are to showcase and celebrate existing education and training materials. And we want to connect what we already have from the previous focus groups. And with this metadata scheme, we want to engage you in identifying gaps in available training materials. And we want to go forward in developing learning objectives that are tailored to disciplinary data based on existing generic learning objectives. Because the current work is that we are participating in a community cross-fertilization workshop on research data management support in education. We are organizing an event in the Decade of Data of the Research Data Alliance, which is called RDA Trainer Networks, Connecting, Collaborating, and Innovating. And we have the 2 focus groups, one on learning outcomes and one that is currently forming on the learning material landscape overview gap analysis. So I will also introduce the first focus group to you. The one on learning outcomes. There, the motivation is that the documentation of data curation and research should include learning outcomes, especially also for education material. And these outcomes should demonstrate data property, attribution, and process. And it would make sense to differentiate those by discipline, data type, and methodology. So that focus group defined 4 provisional objective themes, which is first define the outcomes and objectives, find some minimum viable outcomes that should be attributed to resources, make them interoperable, and then develop some taxonomy and guidance how these learning outcomes should and can be provided. So there are regular meetings and rolling notes available. Check them out if you're interested, and become a member or help in any way you want. And for the second focus group, the training material landscape, we have actually Andrea in the room, who contributed to the formation of the idea on the last plenary. So.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Andrea Medina-Smith. I'm from the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. And one thing that the group wanted to do was extend the process that they came up with, or the project where they came up with the minimal metadata. In that, there is a short list of training materials that are available. And so taking that, we want to move on and make a bigger list so that we can really try and capture as much of the landscape as possible, but there are gaps that we can already see. This group would work to not only create that landscape, but really identify what the gaps are and recommend additions. The gaps that I can already see are outside of English and German, really. There's nothing that we have captured. We've captured a lot of I would say generalists, but we haven't captured very much for specific disciplines outside of the life sciences, especially things like social sciences and humanities. There's not much. So the 2 biggest gaps I would say are in language and discipline. And outside of that, I'm sure you guys will find more gaps, but I'll write all that stuff up and hand it off to whomever would like to be the chair of that group.
Another call.
Another call for help. So yes, that's what we got.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. So that was the first part on our agenda. So we continue to celebrate and showing and describing the training materials that we got in the achievements. So we have 3.
Yes, we have 3 speakers. So first we have Kevin. He's a director of Digital Content Center in UK, and he's also involved in the skills for your
That's right, yeah.
for skills project. So Kevin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks very much. And it's okay. So I was going to begin by explaining, who is this person and why is he here? And I think thanks, Margaret, you've already done that. Explain. I'm director, indeed, of the Digital Curation Center. We lead one of the work packages in this project, Skills for EOSC, and I'll describe a bit more about what that project is in a moment. I should also say, I'm the director. I don't really do any work. I just tell other people to do some work. I'm speaking here about the work of a lot of other people, in particular my colleagues, Dominic Green, who leads this work package, Angus White, who I think a number of you will know has been involved in work around skills, as have other DCC staff, past and present, for many years, and particular Sonia Filiposka as well of UKIM, who has led the particular task on Fair by Design learning materials that I've been asked to speak about today. But first, a mandatory commercial. One of the other things we do is we host the International Digital Curation Conference. That's going to be taking place in Edinburgh next year, February 19th to the 21st. If you're keen, you've still got 3 days left to submit a poster for that event. But whether or not you submit a poster, whether or not you submit anything, we really encourage you to join us in Edinburgh next year, and the link is there. So the commercial is over, and now I'm going to speak about what I've been asked to speak about. So first, Skills for EOSC. Well, I hope the name kind of tells you it's in the context of EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud, and it's about skills. That could sum up the whole thing, but obviously there's a work plan, there's a bit more detail to that. There are 44 participants. We're covering 18 countries. You can see the details there. It's a project that began just over a year ago in September 2022. We run through for 3 years until August 2025. And this is definitely a project which in many ways, as in the specific example I'm going to speak of, we're building on the work of others. This is not, creating something from nowhere. As much of the work you're doing, you're synthesizing work that others have already done. I'll explain a little about what the project's trying to do in general, and then focus in on this particular area of FAIR by Design learning materials. So that's one of the things we're doing, proposing a methodology for how to design learning materials in a fair way. We're also coordinating competence centres, and we've been doing a lot of work on minimum viable skill sets, which I think is another thing that may be of interest to this group and also builds on work you've done. There's already been some public consultation on some of those minimum viable skill sets for particular types of roles in the context of working with data, and we're going to be doing more public consultation on that. So we'd really welcome your input on that. Here's one of these diagrams trying to explain everything the project is doing. I'm not going to go through it in detail. I'll just point out that what I'm going to speak about here is just one particular task in one work package. This is a microcosm of what's going on in the project as a whole. Yeah. So this is it, the FAIR by Design methodology. In the few minutes I've got, we won't go through this in detail, but in principle, this is trying to help people create materials that themselves can be considered fair, as well as teaching people about the principles of fair in relation to data. It's not very difficult, really, to translate the notions of fair as it's applied to research data and fair as it's applied to open educational resources, of what these are. And indeed, much of the concepts are familiar to people who've been working in the area of open educational resources. It's just that sometimes the language is different, but it requires a bit of mapping, but the concepts are not particularly strange. But this is intended to be a simple methodology. It allows you, before you even begin to design your learning materials, telling you what to think about at different stages and how, in the end, to ensure that what you produced actually meets these particular goals. So that would be the methodology you'd follow if you're creating something from scratch. But we also recognize that we almost never create training materials from scratch. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm nearly always reusing something that I've done, that somebody else has done. You're combining materials together. So a methodology that only works when you're creating things completely new is not necessarily going to work there. We've thought of that. We also have a checklist. Again, these are for reference. Take away these slides. There's a lot in there. This is a checklist, a cheat sheet, actually. We designed it to help you apply these same principles to materials that already exist, or materials where you're reworking something that's already been done. So we want to make sure that this can work in all of these particular cases. It looks complex there, but actually, that's only because we've tried to condense this all onto a single sheet of A4 paper. There's actually not a lot to work through. There is a cheat sheet. I found this is really helpful. And often you'll find you can skip some bits because you can say, oh, I've already done that bit. I've already done that bit. Oh, here is something new I need to think about. I need to add, whether it's to do with the access rules, whether it's to do with making sure you've enabled reuse, or the metadata around your training materials. Oh, and we appear to have lost one of my slides, because I was going to end. I think I'll remind us. I have, as it happens, my originals here. I'll remind myself what it was that we were going to say right at the end there. So I hope we'll be able to share these with you. I was going to say, if you wanted to know more, we've developed a course about how to do this. So this is training about how to develop training materials. I hope that isn't too meta for us all. There was a URL on that final slide. And I really wanted to mention as well that this work we've done has drawn heavily on the work of this group within RDA. It's drawn also on work in the FAIR project and other sources. And we don't want that to be the only interaction we have with this group and other relevant groups in RDA. I've mentioned the consultations we want to do about the minimum viable skill sets, but there are a number of other ways where we know RDA is definitely one way to make sure that we're not just focusing on what Europe needs here, that we're doing things in a more global context. And I think I've probably already taken up too much time, and I'll stop there. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you, Kevin, for a very interesting presentation. I think we will have a little bit time for questions at the end of the this block. So now I can introduce you to my colleague, Professor of Bioinformatics and Biomedical Data Science, Krzysztof. He is working at the University of Bradford, UK, and he's the Elixir UK training coordinator and the principal investigator for the Elixir UK Data Stewardship Fellowship Program.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that was that was great. Right. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to talk about our more than 2 years journeys, right here, which includes the 24 data steward fellows and trainers, also mentors, and our core team. So just to start, so at the beginning of 2021, we've been awarded the UKRI grant with the aim of develop the program, the fellowship, to embed data management, fair data management training in the UK institution in the domain of the life science. And the way how we approach that, we provided a fellowship right here. So we've got 24 fellows now from the 17 organization to the very talented and diverse group of the data managers. And we just asked them to help us with some tasks right here. And these tasks include the creation of the short training videos, developing the training courses, but also delivering these training courses in their organization, but also going outside of their organization. So, for example, if they've got any specific domain, just go and distribute this course or seed their local community of the practice. But we also encourage them to work with us around the upskilling, right? Yes, so we provide them some training, which I'm going to a little bit talk, and we also work as hubs or mentors and try to engage them into the international projects or also national projects right here, which Elixir is running. And if you don't know what Elixir is, in principle is the European research data and computing infrastructure in the life science. So just a little bit about these supporting activities and mentoring. So we thought that the best way to creating this community and move forward is actually to engage and to find the mentors. So we found some mentors both from the various aspects of the data management for data management domain, but also training, and we grouped them together with our fellows right here to make sure right here that they've got a sound body right here or colleagues to talk about the content which they are developing. We also give them some guidance in terms of the how to develop the training. For example, we provide them the train the trainer course, right? So the train the trainer, and we use our expertise or our colleagues from across the Elixir to do that. And we actually received a quite good feedback around that, right? Yeah, which was to some extent it was a little bit challenging for us because that was a time when pretty much COVID started, right? Yeah, and we thought that we are going to do more activities face to face, but yeah, but we couldn't. So what are the outcomes, right here? So so we are in the second or now the third year of the program. So our fellows, they developed the courses. So this is the open access courses right here, and we've been using open infrastructure. So we use either the Galaxy Training Network or we use the Carpentries incubators because I'm sure Kevin will not correct me, or maybe he will. They almost offer fair by design methodology right here when we are developing the content with using both infrastructures. So now we've got around I think 16 courses. I know that the one came just yesterday. I've been informed, and like I said, this is something which we are hoping that they will share also to sustain this great effort of our fellows, right? Yeah, both of these infrastructure, they've got communities. So we are hoping that even, you know, if our fellows moved from the institution, there will be ongoing process of the curation and feedback on these courses. Like I said, we also got the short videos, right? Yeah, which are done by the fellows. So every fellow is talking in these videos about either about some core curriculum fragments or about their areas of the expertise. And like I said, we want to make sure that we've got community. So we are trying to also engage fellows, right? Yeah, into the working group. So within Elixir UK, we've got the training and research data management working group. So this is the working groups which meets every month, and we are trying to have some additional activities just to go beyond the program. The same at the European level, right? Yeah, we are trying to make sure that fellows can participate. So we also provided them some funding, for example, to go to the conferences or to present or to engage into these activities. And yeah, so I don't know how many of you know about the biohackathon. It's quite the Europe is quite domain specific, but now we're also going to have some fellows who are going to join us in biohackathon and work on the projects which are related to their expertise. So with all of that, I just wanted to thank you, right? Like I said, please join us. And what I mean by that, like I said, all these training materials are open source, right? Yeah, so we are welcome any feedback. We can also more than happy to put you in touch in the fellows, particularly if they cover your area of the expertise. So thank you very much for that. And I would also like to thank our funders, right? Yeah, for allowing us to run this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Krzysztof. It's always good to thank our funders. And our last presentation, this is an online presentation, so can we switch to Venkat? And
I will do the clicking.
okay. Hi, Venkat. How are you? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. That's great. So Venkat, he's a training officer in OpenAir. So here we go, Venkat.
I thank you. Should I share my screen or?
We can,
yeah.
Yes, we can see you, but we can't see the slides.
If he shares his screen, then we can see both him and his slides.
Yeah. Let's try.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Do you want me to share my screen?
Let's try. Do it.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Okay. Just one moment, please.
In the meantime, I can say we will, of course, make sure that you get all of the slides, at least by linking them in our collaborative notes. But yeah, sorry for that.
I've added that missing link into the collaborative notes already.
Great,
so
thank you.
Okay, great. Now we can see your screen and we can see your presentation.
Great, thank you. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Venkat. I'm the training officer at OpenAir. And today I'll just briefly take you through what we've been doing as regards the EOS Knowledge Hub, which is actually part of the EOS Future project, and also a learning platform called Open Plato, which is basically a Moodle instance that has been set up through OpenAir itself. And I just want to describe to you some of what we've been doing in terms of learning resource metadata. So why? Of course, we want to make things more fair, and too many learning resources are being produced and with hugely varying metadata. And so in many cases, this is very poorly defined. And of course, we want to treat these learning resources in the same way that researchers are treating their digital data objects and trying to make these learning resources as fair as possible as well. This is where the ETHRD work has really come into play and what we wanted to do. So to make them interoperable and of course, make them as reusable as possible. So this diagram, I'm sure many of you know this already from this group because this is exactly where it came from. And I'm just reusing that here. And of course, the ETHRD, they have defined 14 minimal metadata fields for defining learning resources. And this is what we have actually reused in the work that I've been doing. Indeed, I see one of my colleagues in the EOS Future project is also here. Maggie, maybe there are other people in the room too. And these minimal metadata fields are the backbone to what we're trying to do in terms of integrating learning resources that we have been creating through the EOS Future project and elsewhere through my work in OpenAir as well. So Kevin also mentioned about integrating existing learning resources and trying to make them fair. And indeed, that's something that we've been looking into as well and trying to retrospectively shoehorn in, if you want to say that, learning resources into these platforms. And that has been a major task in itself, and indeed one that we're trying to figure out as best as possible, because a lot of them, as I mentioned already, they have very minimal metadata as it is. And so trying to fill out all these fields, it's not always easy, but we're trying to figure this out. So what I should say as well is this platform Open Plato that is being set up through OpenAir. It is actually the home for this EOS Knowledge Hub as well. So the two are very much interlinked. The EOS Knowledge Hub is actually two things. It's partly residing in Open Plato, which is the learning management system, but it is also a catalog of learning resources, some of which are being developed through EOS Future itself, but we're also trying to aggregate learning resources in the wider community that are directly relevant to EOS itself. Whereas Open Plato, not only does it have EOS-related learning resources, but it is trying to capture learning resources from across the open science community, including RDM, FAIR principles, and so forth. So together, we're trying to use these RDA minimal metadata for learning resources and create a standard. And we want to encourage the community as much as possible to adopt these standards as well, because indeed, we're talking about interoperability and reusability, and this is the way we need to take things forward. Okay, that's all I was going to say right now. And of course, we're going to have questions, I think, but please do get in touch if you want to learn more. And also in the chat, I've pasted some links to further reading, basically, and the links to the actual platforms that I described. Thank you very much.
Presentation. And now, Laura, do we have still some time for questions? Okay, that's great. So maybe we can start from the audience here. Do you have any questions to our prelegents? Because I have one question online, so it's quite long. Kevin, it's to you. It's from Maggie, replying to the full training course. Thanks. I note that at the moment, one has to log in to access even the description of the course. Will this be relaxed later to open it up? It's one thing to be required to log in to actually participate, but this seems rather unnecessary just to learn more about the contents.
So I think I'll use the microphone. I couldn't agree with you more, Maggie. I wasn't aware of that requirement, and it does seem foolish, that surely we want to make the description of this as widely available as possible. How else do we get people interested in it? Now, it may just be that the link I've given was that there was a link somewhere else that would give you the description, but I'll feed that back to the people responsible for that bit of infrastructure. I know that the course itself is hosted. It's not the first time we've heard the word Moodle. I think Venkat, you also others have mentioned it. That's a Moodle instance that we have that on. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that the descriptions at least and something about the course content is more openly available.
Okay, thanks. We have one question. As a guest access, scroll down the page a little bit.
You've explored it more than I have, clearly. Yeah. So
it asks you to log in, and then it gives you loads of login options. Says you can create an account. If you carry on scrolling down, it says access as a guest, and I think you can access the whole thing. I can at least see some of the stuff, see some notes, see the diagram, and like some of the other stuff. So maybe that might work for other people as well.
and maybe we just need to make that option clearer as well. That's thank you for discovering.
Yes, I think maybe yeah. Can we yes, Maggie, can we?
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, I think it's really stupid that you have to scroll down to the bottom in order to find this. So I agree, Kevin, that if you can work with your people to change this. But in any case, the minimal metadata about it should be just there as a kind of landing page, right? So
we should be
I think
following our own advice. Yes.
Yes, exactly. But I know from experience from the ENRI courses and trying to develop a training materials website and a learning catalog, learning resource catalog, how incredibly difficult this is in practice. So congratulations on a good effort, and I hope you have time and the money to finish this up.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we can another question.
This is maybe quite specific, and I feel like already the momentum is moving on to other topics, but I was curious with Kevin's presentation, because of time, went very quickly over the context of the work package within Skills for EOSC. I was wondering if there's time to tell us a little more about the wider project.
I'd be happy to tell you, or indeed to tell others more, but I'm worried I don't really want to take over this session to describe that project more generally. But it's, yeah, its aim is to ultimately to raise the skills of all those who need to interact one way or another with data produced in or used by research within Europe. And I think one of the things that makes it somewhat different from other things that we've been involved with in the past that have attempted to do the same is that most of our efforts, the training we do at the DCC, is often focused more directly either on researchers or on data stewards, the people that we think of as being very close to the data itself. Skills for EOSC is trying to take a broader view. It's also, for instance, it's got one task area focused on public officials, on people who make policy about data, or on people who are developing policy that ought to be informed by data. Now, what they need to know about open data, about open sites, is quite different from what a data steward needs to know. But it's just as important that they have this awareness that this is going on and it could change the way they work. And they potentially, if they're policymakers, could have an effect on all of this. And they're just one example of the other groups that the project's trying to address.
Okay, I think we can move to another part of our session. So once again, thank you for our speakers. And we will have some general questions for you in the last part of our. So just Venkat, just stay with us, please.
Right, thank you. So now we are coming to the interactive thing, and we wanted to try it out for yourselves to use the metadata scheme that was now also kind of shown already. And let me walk you through what we want to do. So we have 3 handouts there for us people in the room and links for the people online. The goal here is that you familiarize yourself with the scheme. We want to foster the connection between the interest group outputs And we want to collect whether there are challenges when creating or using material, and also describing it probably. So what we will do is, I will tell you all about it, what we're going to do. We will set up some groups, and since we noticed, or at least that was the plan, and we noticed that the chairs are really difficult to move here, so you can turn around to people sitting close to you, or just if you don't want to do it, that's also fine. Just group up or move places, however you want to do it. Online depends on how many people we have. We have breakout sessions or not. Kati will manage that. Then we will take 10 minutes time of having of looking at the scheme at least. The second handout is an example for which you could fill out the scheme. And the third handout is the data dictionary for the terms of the scheme. And yeah, you might need also a pen. I think we have some to give out for people who don't have a pen. Just raise your hand as soon as Magda is done with distributing. And with that, we can start. So again, here's the overview of the task. Decide on the material you want to try to describe. Check the 2 other handouts and then enter as much as you can. And or think about the additional questions that we might also want to talk about. Like, did you contribute material before? Did it match this minimal information? And if not, why not, for example? What challenges occur when creating material? And what challenges occur when using or reusing material? So these are things that you might want to comment on, if you like. And we start now with the 10 minutes. Have fun. Enjoy. Please talk to each other.
Now we are very traditional way, so with the trend, not everything you know has to be your mobile computer. So
I've done most of the work because
No, but yeah, let's try and solve that. So the first thing is identify the and then describe what is the person, right? Then you can talk about the one slide, yeah, dragons. I think this and slash just and some part is that sorry, schema or yeah, there you'll make the slide, but I think yeah. Okay, so I did the cause be set in the context of in general. So we have generally quite papers slightly thanks for that. And that's the collaborative. What you and that's the so which would we are but sometimes yeah, that's another example. Okay, right. We've already had another paper. So let's right because let's everybody people trying. I like to be like
Okay, so that's 4 minutes left. 4 minutes.
Okay,
sometimes they can just go 20 years just I know we could mark this out. Yes. I know what's what to what extent should we do like that into okay, keywords, right? Right. So there's they will be in the metadata. We did quite a lot of because we do have a few more. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so it might vary here. But it, yeah, so that's the case. You can have modules. Once you're out more of these, that's about I'm wondering whether that applies to this. Well, that's an interesting line. Yes. It's really interesting. So one was at the so another 700 people. So this is a separate project, it's not part of that idea to fund it. But it's stuck, I think it's an NPI project to try and learn something about those schools and they're going to be. Yeah. I did get that. So you're finding the results are like. All right, so yeah, I think it's from control.
I think so.
All right, everyone. Coming back and focus on the session again. Because now we have a few minutes to debrief basically from that exercise. I would like to encourage you and also you guys online to give a comment on how you found it or whatever came to your mind, maybe referring to that additional questions, maybe not. It depends on what you want to do. Do we have comments, questions, statements in the room? Or do you need another minute to think? Everyone still looks really concentrated. Yeah.
Hi. So we got kind of stuck on the keywords and the version date. Perhaps the version date is still somewhere there, but it wasn't really obvious. But mostly the keywords seem to be missing in the example we were using. So.
Yeah. So you had a look at the example and they didn't use keywords.
No.
So yeah. Thank you. So that, of course, would make it harder to find that specific resource if it's not enriched. Yes. Do we have more comments, statements, questions? Maybe online? I have one in the room.
Yeah, so there's a couple of them where it's called ideally from a controlled vocabulary, but what should we do with that?
Yeah. So I think there was that other working or interest group for ontologies and controlled vocabularies, right? So there is a point where we should connect forces to make sure that for everything there is a controlled vocabulary that you could use, right? Or someone else wants to comment on that as well? Does someone else have a pointer? That's a question. Or something.
I mean, some of them were a lot easier than other ones. We struggled a little bit, obviously, because originally some of the stuff was in German, although the training content was in English. So a little bit of Google Translate. One of the other things I commented on, I think, was the author names. And then in here it says names should include first name and family name, but it doesn't tell you whether you should put the first name, the first or family name, because in here it's family name, comma, first name, but with a semicolon in between, whereas it tells you to put commas between. So if you put a comma between the first name and the family name, and then a comma between each name, then it's not going to read it properly. And about like a corresponding author, is that something should be designated, because it is on here, but we wouldn't necessarily put it down. But that was one of our thoughts.
Nice. I see another hand.
Regarding that, what does it mean to have name and an ORCID in the same field? So I write my name and the ORCID in the same field, or is that to be done?
That's not so very tidy, right? So maybe that should be split. It might also be that I have shortened away the proper description for the allowed values and the order, because I condensed the dictionary a little bit. But we definitely take that away, both of these comments. Is there something online?
Yeah, I'm just checking, but I can't see any raising hand from the online.
Then we have another one.
Another one here
in the room.
So I was kind of doing a thought experiment with my own learning resource, but one thing that can come up is granularity of the title, because if one resource has a lot of units, then you might want to describe each unit, but then you might not want to do all that metadata, so you might just do the overall one, and you have to decide.
Yeah. Interesting point, like the training material of UK, Elixir UK, right? So many. Another hand over there.
I found the usability very high, so it's intuitive to fill out. I think that is essential. Didn't see anything or notice anything that is missing, but I think that will prove when you really use it and have a lot of different material, and then probably there will be things that need extending the schema here, but otherwise I think that is good. And I wouldn't say that there's anything that is superfluous. So all of these are mandatory, or is it planned?
I don't remember that. Can anyone else answer?
Probably maybe target group would potentially be not really necessary, but it's good if it's there. Otherwise, I would say pretty.
Well, target group, I think, will help to select whether you want to use the material or not, or whether it's.
Of course, it will help. The question was just if it is really absolutely necessary, if you have a learning material where you don't have a target group, because you say, that's so great, that's for everybody. Or you write everybody, or if you leave it blank, unknown, if you have something that you inherited or for some reason never thought about it, maybe it's not necessary, right?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think it's still useful to make a statement, even if all you want to say is this is for everybody. It's better to say that rather than leave it blank. So in that sense, I think having it mandatory, but perhaps with that guidance of how should you express yourself if you don't have a specific group in mind, that'd be worth doing.
Yeah.
If you are the author and know the information, but you may not be the author, or the author is unknown, and what then? Then you might write none or unknown or whatever.
But I remember reflecting on this with other services, and in fact, you can always say something about the audience. So I would say, I think practically everything we're ever dealing with, for instance, is designed for adults. These are not training materials for kindergartens. It's possible to do interesting work with children in kindergartens and data, but we're not the people designing that stuff. So you can at least sort of say it's at least, you know, it's for adults, or maybe even it's for school children above 16, or it's only for postgraduates, or and for people with a reasonable reading knowledge of whatever language it's in. That's almost implied.
Sorry. May I just ask about that? Is it not like it could be not inclusive, right? Yeah. I'm just wondering if it does not affect inclusivity in some sense of the audience, right here? Because just to give you an example, so I'm coming from the biomedical field, and we've got some people who are doing bioinformatics, and they sometimes were not sure if they can be called bioinformaticians, right here, because they didn't have confidence. So then when we include that, right, yes, some of them, they may think, although they are doing this task, but they may think, you know, maybe this material is not for me.
Yeah, that's often a problem. Yes, if you imply that it's very narrowly targeted, actually people that you want to be using it won't use it.
We have another hand in the back, and then Julian.
So this metadata scheme looks a lot as what we use within our university, just within our team ourselves. And one thing we always struggle with is how we're writing down the learning outcomes. So personally, I used to teach high school, so I was always taught that the participant, at the end of the course, the participant can X and I with Z, for example. But you can also just write down research data management. It's like, they can do that. They can do research data management now. And especially we're a team with only 5 people that do and create these trainings. And we're really struggling in getting that just along. So the first thing I did look at, of course, like, do you have the solution? But
well, I hope Kati will add a link to the collaborative notes, because in one of our working groups, we have as an output learning objective metrics that is now also translated to English as well. So that is really comprehensive. And we have the focus group. So, and Laura is raising a hand on that.
There is feedback.
Microphone, please. Oh, okay, sorry.
I can see, I can read this. So we have a comment from the breaking room. It's from Maggie. So in the breakout, Venkat, Kati, and I ended up discussing more general issues of catalogs for training materials, including how to distinguish clearly between learning resources, courses, and events, instances of courses. It's easy to mix these different granulators to determine of both providers, repositories, and users, learners. You would like comment?
No, I just agree.
Okay, then.
And unfortunately, many adults learners behave like a kindergarten kids. So I think everybody agree with that as well.
All right, Julian.
I have a remark about the type. So it's mostly text, which at some points will not be very useful, especially if I think about the people as a target group. This should be a list, because you may have different target groups, and if you just have texts, then you'll not be able to look very efficiently. So are there plans to change that type into something which is more metadata and computer readable?
I'm not part of the working group. Do we have someone here who can answer the question? What are the plans for that? I don't think so, no. It would have been Gavin, but he's not here, unfortunately. So yeah, we can take that to the notes as well, and then maybe have an answer later on.
Yeah, just one remark on that, mate. I certainly agree. There are some fields there where license, for instance, where lots of work in related areas like data sets and software and everything else, it's already well established that what you want there is something more machine actionable, a link to a license, which makes it very straightforward to be able to say, I'm integrating 100 different things here. I want to know, do they all have the same license or not? Yeah, and if that's a text field, it's impossible. If they're links to essentially identifiers for those licenses, it's really easy to work out whether you can do that.
And we have another thing, first question, also from Maggie. First question, when learning outcomes, who are we writing this for, instructors or learners?
I would think instructors. At least the learning objective matrix that we produced is definitely for instructors.
Yeah, and Maggie asked to be unmuted, if it's possible.
Yeah, so I think instead of you reading out questions, it might be faster if you would allow the person who posted to just step in. Yeah, hi everybody. So I was part of this group that created this minimal metadata set, and I just wanted to make the comment that of course we were talking about should we prescribe that people put in URLs pointing to, for instance, a standardized license of things. So should we insist that people create persistent identifiers for their materials or courses or whatever? Should we require that people put in ORCID IDs, etc., just in order to make it not only more standardized, but of course more machine interpretable, at least, if not actionable fully? But then we sort of arrived quite early in the discussion at the point that one of the purposes of creating a minimal data set, metadata model, would be to really encourage people to get started to use it. And then we wanted to lower the threshold as much as we could in terms of the complexity of finding the information, finding the values that need to be entered into a catalog, for instance, based on this model. So that might answer some of the remarks which were made just now in the discussion today. I think we really need to balance that. How do we get people out in countries and regions where this is only starting up now to digitize and store this kind of information in a more comprehensive way? How do we get those people encouraged and funded to engage with this? And then maybe we can go in later and sort of make it more sophisticated, make it more machine actionable fair, rather than just fair or just open.
Thank you. And we have another comment from Venkat. Do you want me to read, or you would like to be unmuted as well? Okay, so can we unmute Venkat, please?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, it was just, it may be quite a minor point, but just going back to the issue of authors, I just wanted to point out that not always family names is the second name. It's quite a Western-centric view, and in the guidance, it says family name, and I would maybe avoid saying that.
Yeah, sorry, I shortened that one. That's my bad.
Yeah, and you should be aware that there are parts of the world, Indonesia, for instance, where you don't even necessarily have those two names or names with those attributes. It's yeah. There's lots of
if we want to be as inclusive, if we want to be as inclusive as possible, you know, to get learning resources from what Maggie was just saying and others were saying about people that are just starting to digitize things, perhaps in other parts of the world, and then we need to be able to make it as easy as possible for them to integrate their resources into this metadata schema.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think we just move to another part for like more general discussions. So thank you everybody in the room that you provide us feedback. And now we have 3 questions, but I think we are running out of time, so I'm not sure if we will be able to answer all of this. However, if I could start with our prelegents, so maybe Kevin, what are challenges and requirements unique to the various disciplines?
So in providing training or in skills? So I might take a position that's quite extreme. We were having a conversation about this during the break, prompted by the remark made earlier about in attempting to build up this list of resources that somebody was saying you hadn't found much that's discipline specific. So we at the DCC do a lot of training that's often for highly discipline focused groups. We don't have any discipline specific training material, but we still manage to deal with highly discipline specific issues, usually by varying the material we use and the exercises. So training is not just, standing up and talking at people. We all know that. You want people to do things, do something practical. In those exercises, we will try and have material that's very specific if it's a discipline-specific group we're dealing with to training. And that's worked really well for us. I suspect it's also working really well for lots of other people. And that's why you're not finding much in the way, with the exception perhaps of what Elixir and others have done, but you're not finding much in the way of discipline-specific material. So that's not to say that there are differences in emphasis. Clearly, somebody working in clinical research needs to know a lot about issues to do with consent, to do with sensitive information. But you can still use quite generic material in order to give them those skills. And when you're teaching astronomers about data management, you can just forget all that stuff about consent until we meet some intelligent aliens, and then perhaps we'll have to rethink some things to do with consent in astronomy. But right now, that's not an issue. So they may exist, but I'd say that we can get a long way without worrying about discipline-specific issues.
Okay, and Krzysztof, what about your case? Can we have a mic for?
I can move here, right? Yeah. So just to be clear, so the questions are challenges and requirements unique to the various disciplines, right? Yeah. So just from my experience, I think one of the requirements might be the particular data repositories, right? Yeah, which we are recommending to store the data or to work with the data. However, I think Kevin is right that it's very important to provide this principal training as well in fair data management. And in terms of the challenges, I think one of the challenge is that some of, when we are going into the domain, then we're finding a subdomains, right? Yeah. So that you need to also balance to some extent, right? Yeah. How far you wanted to go with your training. Yeah, I think that's my point on that.
Thank you. And can we unmute Venkat online? So Venkat, what are challenges and requirements unique to various disciplines?
I'm not sure I have that much to add there. I think what Kevin said covered what I would have been saying as well. I mean, from my personal anecdotal observations, then yes, a lot of the generalist training and learning resources cover most of the bases, and it is a case of trying to tailor things for these discipline-specific things. But it's a tricky one, and there's a balance to be struck as well in terms of the effort required to actually adapt things, which needs to be taken into consideration. I mean, making things specific to any one discipline, and that can be a tricky one.
Okay, thank you. And we have someone from the audience. Yes.
I would like to extend this question by the question, if we always teach RDM as a separate topic, as a separate unit, or if there are examples where it's integrated into the disciplinary course, like an electronic lab notebook should, in my opinion, be part of the of a normal course in inorganic chemistry, for example. And then, of course, it's a whole different picture if it's completely, you cannot easily reuse the materials, or you have to reuse it for the whole course. So just wanted to extend this picture.
Hey, thank you. Anybody else from the audience? If not, we can move to the next question. So can I please the slide?
It was, what about extended metadata?
Yes, so what's about extended metadata? So now I can start from my right.
Really? So what about extended metadata? Can you just maybe clarify the question to me?
I think it's quite open to discussion, and not necessarily that we all have to answer it in turns. It's more like, I think we already also kind of talked about it, that the minimal metadata scheme is minimal, obviously. So at what point might it be sensible to include the extension, for example?
So
that direction.
So I think in our field we've got something which are calling bioschema, which is the extension, right? Yeah, or is based on the schema org, right? Yeah. So I think in that case, yeah, that's probably address this topic.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that occurs to me that there might be scope for doing something limited, I think, inspired by the report of what the online group were discussing during the breakout about that, the confusion that arises sometimes about whether we're describing an individual resource, like something that we might use in an exercise in a course, or whether we're describing an entire set of course materials, or whether we're describing an instance, a training event, which itself is using materials which are also described using the standard. And I wonder there with the scope to do something very limited, both to make those distinctions and perhaps to be able to make assertions like, you know, next month there is going to be a course in this place which is going to use these materials which are already described by this standard. I don't know if that's useful to people. That might be one area to do some use.
Thank you. So now Venkat and then Maggie.
I think Maggie can go first, right, Venkat?
Yeah, let Maggie go first.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so one other thing that we brought up briefly in that breakout was that one thing that we learned in the ENVRI context when we were building this training catalog and training, or I should say learning material repository and learning platform, was that one thing that really was missing and we really struggled on how to implement that at short notice at the end of that project was really allowing for relations between the different entities that were already in the catalog and or with external objects from other catalogs. So really describe, first of all, things like is part of or contains, those basic things about different overlapping things, but also to be able to flexibly describe, for instance, that, okay, so this course event here, it used these materials that were original to that, but it also reused this material that was produced from another context, and then being able to link those together. That was really missing in our metadata model. So I think that is something, those qualified references which are mentioned in the FAIR principles, that I think is really necessary to allow for that. So if one adds extends the metadata model, I think that it's very important to have that available in a, not in a very narrow sense, but for instance, allow more than one entry there, which we failed to do. So I can just say that is something that is it can be very limiting and actually rather useless if it's not flexible enough.
Thank you, Maggie.
I have been looking on the clock, and I would like to ask Magda to come here. Thank you very much for that lively discussion, and I'm really sorry to cut it short, but we have another part that we want to go through, which will also be talking and interactive, so don't close your minds now, but please, Magda.
But okay, no, I think we could finish that because Venkat.
Yeah, you can also.
Chance, yes. So Venkat, yes, please finish these questions.
I'll be
Yeah.
very brief. This link that I've shown in the chat. Yes, no worries, Laura. Hopefully it's self-explanatory, but yes, the ETHRD minimal metadata set, that's 14 fields, and that's just the baseline. And yes, we did think about this in the EOS Future project for any learning resources that we wanted to integrate into the catalog that we built there. Yes, there are additional fields, and some are mandatory, some are optional. These were questions that we all went through, and it was painstaking to really think about this. But yeah, in the interest of time, please do have a look. And if you want to know more about what we were doing there, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for our speakers. So now we are just moving to the last part of our sessions, and we would like to ask you and encourage you to think about the future. So what kind of future areas of work or potential areas of interest for us, for our interesting group? What kind of group reports out we supposed to produce and deliver? What kind of next goals we can achieve, and what kind of steps we need to take? So once again, it's a kindly reminder that we are looking for focus groups leaders. So Andrea, she introduced today her focus group, and also we have another focus group which will be chaired by Gavin, I think. But we would like to encourage you to join these two focus groups. And the most, yes.
Can I just ask a question about that? Can you, maybe explain what is the aims of the focus groups right here?
About those focus groups, I can't explain. Laura? Yeah, it's Jean's part.
Yeah, let's go back to the slide that was on there. So the one learning outcomes is, oh, sorry, there we are. They are basically, I'm also not part of any of those focus groups, I have to say. So this is just what we got from them. And the learning outcomes are intended to work on incorporating or enforcing or bringing forward the inclusion of learning outcomes in the description of training materials. So that, I imagine, should feed on the learning objective matrix that we published, and then bring those topics together. And the other focus group, the training material landscape, that was just the idea that it might be helpful to see what is out there, as we just did today as well, and see whether there are gaps, and we can make any recommendations on what else needs to be done or should be done or might want someone else do or something in that direction. But to be able to do such a thing, of course, we have to first look where we can find stuff, what is there, and so on. And also, we are not necessarily nailed on those focus groups. So if you have a different idea, I want to do a different focus group, that will also be awesome.
Yes, thanks. And another thing And I know that I already mentioned that at the beginning, but we are looking for the coaches. So, sorry, it's on the other side. Okay, sorry. So join us. We will have much fun. And so we would like, of course, we would like to build a community and network. We don't really we do not want to overlap with other groups, because sometimes like RDA or any other organization such big, we have overlap, we have different working groups, and our goals or aims and even outputs might overlap. So we would like also to come with something new. We would like to organize sessions, and so I would like to say about few upcoming events. So at the 16th of November, we will be part of the RDA for Research Data Management Support and Education Community Cross-Fertilization Workshop. So that's the very long name. But if you will be able to join us, that'd be great. All the links, I think they will be provided via RDA websites and also through the mailing list. Another workshop is RDM Trainer Networks, Connecting, Collaborating and Innovating. That is the part of the data celebrations. So, and it will be 29th of November. I'm always very confused with the changing the times and time zones, so you have to double check. And I would like to recommend you a great event on site. So it's like more time for talking, connections, and celebrating as well. So it's the Fellowship of the Data RDM Trainer Community Meeting. And that be the second edition of that community meeting. And you can see Jeanne, she has a beautiful t-shirt, and you can see at her back, she has, Jeanne, please. That's the fellowship, yes, Fellowship of the Data. So if you do like the Ring of the Lords of the Ring, yes, sorry. You have to join us. And last time we met in person in Berlin, and also Krzysztof and Elixir, they were a part of that event. And this year we are next year, 2024, it'll be in June. We will meet in Jena. Jena. It's in Germany. Okay, guys, so I would like to thank you so much. Which one? Yes. So I would like to thank you so much. And if you have any questions and any ideas, the first thing, please add them to the notes. You can also another kindly reminder that please check in. So at our rolling notes, that's the space that you can put your name and your affiliation. Also, you will see them. The box, so you can put your ideas for yes. Finish? Okay. you can. I think I can show you. Yeah. Collaborativeness. You can put your ideas about our next potential areas for interest. And if you have any questions, you can reach me. You can reach Jeanne, you can reach Katie, Laura, or Amy. Not you. Yes, so you can still reach Laura and talk with her about other stuff. Yeah, so thank you so much. Yes. Sorry, I can't see any online messages here.
That's what they're telling you.
Yeah. So Maggie, please do go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, so Laura pointed out in the chat for Zoom people that this focus group on learning outcomes is up and running and under the leadership of Gavin. So there we do have one person chairing that, but of course it would be good to have someone to support Gavin there. And I just wanted to make the note that we, in that group, we're especially looking for people from outside of Europe to join us in the learning outcomes group, because we want to hear about the practices in other parts of the world. And we're also planning to look at the multilingual aspects. So people who are not primarily doing teaching and training and learning in English, but in other languages, please join us. And one good way to get into our activities, because someone was asking, right, what was going on there, please follow that link to the rolling notes and you will find a whole lot more information about how to join and what we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. That's really helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. So I think we can finish this session. We survive, Ran. Okay, so I hope we will see during the online events and also on sites. Yeah, thank you so much.
I will post notes to be on.
Yes, we do this.